kill. Go to war.
Thank you, sir.
Amo, you magnificent bastard, I read your book!
Welcome back to another edition of the War Room. This time we are looking at Jalen Ramsey. And you may notice by the title, this is Jalen Ramsey Part 1. And I did that very specifically because this is going to be one of the hot button topics amongst the Steelers fan base going into the offseason, leading up into training camp, and seeing how he's actually deployed this incoming season, because we don't really know what the plans are. We know how the team utilized him last year. There's a lot of things that were done out of necessity, not necessarily a true indication of what I would call how they planned on using him. But because, you had some serious issues with guys like Juan Thornhill and Chuck Clark, and you couldn't find any consistent safety play. You lose Deshaun Elliott for the season. It just really forced Jalen Ramsey into the full-time safety role, excuse me, as the season went on. And I thought that was a huge mistake. I think that was something that probably was not planned for. And I think that was something where the team decided, we don't really have many options. And as well as Brendan Eccles kind of stepped into that nickel role and played, it certainly wasn't perfect. And I think they would have preferred in certain situations to have Jalen Ramsey in that role instead of exclusively playing at safety. So I decided to put a lot of time into this one. I got roughly about 7.5 hours into this episode, seriously, because I kept watching very heavily into the first 4 games. Specifically, I watched every single snap from those first 4 games. That's primarily when he was early in the season being utilized as a nickel corner, and then also played a little bit of safety. But if you look at the splits, I mean, he played primarily at the corner position. And there's a huge narrative that he cannot play corner anymore. He's too slow. He got beat way too often. And while there are some arguments of that can be true, I think it was blown a little bit out of proportion. And I think that there was certain plays that stuck out more than others. And that really is why I think this team sees the fan base kind of, not quite understanding exactly what was going on with the Jalen Ramsey situation, because some of it was schematic from what I saw, some of it was not. So I'm going to take some time. I'm going to go through all of these things with you today, and I want to reshape that narrative a little bit, hopefully with some of the plays that I show you. And I'm going to be fully transparent. I added a ton more plays this time. I think I had 10 last time when I did the Jamel Dean video. As of right now, I have 17 plays to roll through on the Jalen Ramsey Part 1. I plan to do a lot more work around this next time. So Part 1 is more geared towards Jalen Ramsey, the corner, in the first 4 weeks of the season, when we saw everybody healthy and they started to utilize him the way they wanted to. I think they wanted to slowly work him into that safety role. That's not how it played out, of course, as I said earlier. But I wanted to show what he's capable of in that corner position so that we can kind of see what exactly went down. So again, this is the Jalen Ramsey War Room film session. This is Part 1. And if you want to go through and look, these are his stats. So some of the things that I think we could all probably notice in this situation was he only had 1 interception last year. He did have 6 pass breakups, and he did a lot of that work early in the season as the corner. Didn't get a lot of them at safety. Another reason why, excuse me, that's another reason why I really broke this down into 2 different segments. Again, I try to put the PFF grading stuff out here too, because I know a lot of people are PFF fans. So he was a 65.8 overall grade last year. 31 years old. He's about to make $19 million this year. So the other thing that I wanted to take into consideration when I was looking at this and when I was breaking this down was the fact that I wasn't really sure if he's worth $19 million. That's a huge number. That's starting outside cornerback money. It's well above league average. I think when I looked at it before, he would have been the third highest paid safety in the league. He's the third or fourth highest paid corner in the league. I mean, he's up there, top five maybe, as far as the cornerback position is concerned. So he's making a substantial amount of money. And in order to get return value out of that, he has to play up to that contract. And so I wanted to really dig into this to see, can he play up to that contract? Is it possible for him at 31 years old, going into his 32nd season, or 32nd, age-wise season, can he still live up to that? And I think that's something that's going to be interesting that we'll show throughout the film. He did play all 17 games last year, 81 targets. They completed 70.4% of their passes when thrown his way. That was the highest of his career. Take some of that into consideration that he was playing safety and not just in the cornerback position. Gave up 656 yards, 11.5 yards per completion, 8.1 air target, which I think that number's up again because of that. The rating is what got me, 118.1. He had never had higher than an 89.4. That rating, man, that's a lot, right? That's kind of a little scary. This was the second or third highest fourth highest. Sorry, I'm almost 224, almost 222. Fourth highest yak. Blitz at the second highest rate, third highest rate of his career. So I just thought that there were some interesting numbers in here that you could see, and looking back at his career as a whole, there's some things that stood out here. If you go into this slide here, you can kind of see the PFF grading. Coverage was very up and down, and you see that earlier in the season, the coverage grade was actually better. And again, this is where it's going to go against that narrative, is those first 4 weeks of the season before his hamstring injury, which occurred in the Minnesota Vikings game, you could see that he really was doing a little better in coverage than he did the rest of the season. And you could see transitions going back through as far as where he was as the season progressed. The more he played safety, the worse the coverage grade got. Tackling grade stayed pretty consistently good throughout, which is something that you would expect from him. He is a bigger, physical, very physical corner. And his grading throughout the years has been pretty good as well, if you look through. Had the one down year with the Dolphins his first year, and then had a really, really good second year. So I don't know. You could see when he goes from the Jags to the Rams, it was his worst graded year that very first year, and he got progressively better the next three with the Rams. He goes to Miami, has a down season, and then gets much better the second season. He comes to Pittsburgh, he has a down season. Can we see a revitalization in the second season with Jalen Ramsey? Maybe it's not just about the age. Maybe it's not just about the speed. Maybe it's just he is an intelligent player, but maybe it's just getting into a system and understanding his role within that system, especially going from an outside corner, bumping inside, then going into safety. He's really playing two positions he's never played before throughout his career, unless he was trailing guys. And that's something that I think is a little undersold in this whole thing as well. So again, is he going to have this big revitalization like you see on that left-hand column and say he's going to jump from a 64.4 up to a 76.9? I don't know. I don't know. Are there tools still available in his bag where you could see that happen? I think that's something that really we need to take a look at as a whole, as a group, and figure out, because I think there's more inside the Jalen Ramsey package than maybe what we're getting credit for. So let's go ahead. Let's dive into the actual film here, and let's start to take a look at things. So I'm starting week 1 versus the Jets, and there's a lot of good Jets film on this with Jalen Ramsey. The first 4 weeks, honestly, I got some pretty decent film on every one of the weeks except for the third week against the Patriots. He had 2 targets, 0 catches, 0 yards, but they were, honestly, it wasn't anything fun to really put on film, so I didn't. So most of the work is going to come from 3 of the 4 first games here. So right here, you're going to see Jalen Ramsey right in the middle of your screen. He's going to be playing in that big nickel, kind of like a sub-third linebacker position because of the tight formation that you're going to see from the Jets. So he's right here. This is going to be a run play, and this is what he brings to the table as a physicality standpoint. You see him just blow that lead block up. And that's something that I think gets undersold in his game. It's not just the tackling. It's the physicality. And so when you talk about value and a guy who's making $19 million a year, is the value there? There are things that can be brought to the team that are very valuable that does not have to do with the stat sheet. Now, I think that it was a little bit misplayed in some degree. We're going to watch this thing go from the second angle, and you'll see why. So, again, you're going to have a lead blocker coming right here, and he blows this lead block up. You see the pitch down. He gets the blocker blown out of the way, but he kind of throws him right into Slay's way. Slay can't get underneath of him. Jalen Ramsey doesn't quite get underneath. And that's something that I think that, but the physicality to say a wide receiver is not going to block my corner, that's something that helps in the run game more often than not. So it didn't turn into a tackle for him on that play, but you can easily see why teams do not want to lead block against him as a big nickel in those situations when it's obvious run situations, because he is so big, he is physical, he really attacks right there in that point of attack type moment. So I really love the way that he kind of blows this thing up. I think, we all know the Slay issues that rolled around last year. He didn't want to be a part of any tackling anyway. I think he could have provided a lot more support in that moment than what he did, but that was kind of the way that he does. So I love the physicality that Jalen Ramsey brings, and you need that on your defense too. That's another thing. I think you really need physicality on your defense, especially a defense like the Steelers, where attitude is such a big part of the pie. We'll see how things go moving on from Mike Tomlin to Mike McCarthy. But I think if you look at what Patrick Graham has done, and I think if you look at the interviews he's given and just some of the things you hear about from some of the media who's around him in these moments with these media sessions, like he brings a physical presence. He brings like an attitude about him and the way he conducts his business. You can tell that he's really setting a culture. And if you want to set a culture, there's not many guys better suited to lead your defense than Jalen Ramsey, because he is an attitude and he is a culture all in himself. So we're going to go to the second play here. You're going to see Jalen Ramsey. This time he's going to be playing safety. He's in the deep safety in a cover 1. We're going to be in man-to-man with both JPJ, and you're going to see Slay on the outside here. Excuse me. This is a part where Jalen Ramsey's game has to get better if he's going to continue to play at safety. So as you'll see this play develop, here's JPJ, here's Slay, and this is the crosser routes. Now, everybody knows this play. You saw it last year. You probably remember it. This is where, as a safety, you have to have a little bit of patience. I think he sees this man who's getting probably to his spot. JPJ is a little off, but so is Darius Slay. And he just kind of picks one, right? He picks a guy. He thinks Slay is in a better position than JPJ. And as this plays out, he sees right here, as this guy's going to be the underneath guy, Ramsey feels he needs to step up here because JPJ is getting this kind of like motion pick type thing where as they're deep crossing, he has to come up underneath. Slay's still over the top in a pretty good position right here. So Ramsey immediately goes up under here and attacks. The problem is, as a safety, you have to keep eyes on the quarterback. And if you look right here at Justin Fields, he is not looking to put this ball out here. He's looking to put this ball right here. His body, his shoulders, his hips, his eyes, everything is pointing that direction. And Ramsey's busy watching the receivers. He's not watching the quarterback right here. And as you see this play out, he made Slay adjust that route. I'm going to rewind that back just a little bit here. So watch Slay's path. Right here, Slay sees Ramsey coming. You're going to see him take the slightest step in, and at his age, at 34 years old, he was not able to keep back up. See where he dipped that shoulder in to avoid contact? That was just enough for Garrett Wilson, who ran a 4.4 in the 40. to get over the top and score that touchdown. So this is that play one more time for you. Again, just watch Jalen Ramsey's eyes. He's talking to Joey Porter Jr. You can see the help's supposed to be there. But again, eyes are not in the backfield. Slay ends up changing his route. This one, as much as we wanted to bang on Slay, wasn't totally Slay's fault, in my opinion. I think that was more on Jalen Ramsey. So that's work that needs to be done from the safety position. You have to get better at keeping your eyes in the backfield, and you have to get better about protecting your guys in coverage, man. Like you can't undercut guys, and you can't just, make them change their path. You're the safety. You have to be over the top at all times. So something for him to learn from. This is the play in the game where Jalen absolutely lays out Justin Fields. So you're going to see him right here on your screen. So this one ends up being a zone coverage play. So you see him talking outside with Slay. Here he goes. This is kind of like a cloud cover 2 look. Basically gets out here. Oh, that wasn't I got the play back. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. But this is the zone coverage play before. And what I want to point out is watch how he is using his intelligence on this play to keep an eye on everybody around him. This is where his awareness comes through as a corner. So if you see him, he drops into coverage right here. But look where he's at. He knows he's got a guy on the outside. Where's Justin's eyes? Justin's eyes are looking here and looking here. He's right here, still following in case this guy gets up over the top. There is really no help, honestly. This could have been a possible completion as it's played out. But the receiver flattens out down instead of coming back inside, which is probably where the route was designed to go. Could have had a lane right here to have a completion, but the receiver just kind of drifted outside. But Ramsey staying in position right here. He's in good position between the two guys here. You're willing to give up the underneath throw instead of the over-the-top throw. He sees this guy coming, and Justin starts working away from him. And at that point, he knows he's pretty much not going to see the ball coming. That's where you see Jalen kind of give up. So it ends up being a first down for them. But at the same time, you could see Jalen's intelligence as he drops into coverage. So I loop this play. So again, one more time, I just like how he keeps eyes everywhere. I mean, it's just great awareness. So you carry the guy up the field, give Slay time to get back to his guy. You're willing to give up the underneath throw if Justin worked back that way. Now, this was the play that I jumped ahead on myself on, so I apologize for that. So this is Jalen Ramsey right here. Now, this one here, you're going to be kind of like in this cloud cover 4 type look. Ramsey's responsibility is out here in the flat areas. But you can see as they start carrying upfield, he starts drifting back. He's still kind of undercutting Garrett Wilson right here. You've got help right here in the middle of the field. Slay's still over the top. You got a safety over the top on this side, and he's still deep enough to affect this play. But here's the thing. Eyes still in the backfield. This is what he needs to get better at as a safety. When he's doing this type of thing at corner, this is where you think he could adapt to being a safety if he learns these same techniques when he's actually playing safety. So here, Justin's going to scramble. Now, here's the thing. Jalen is checking everywhere around him. Is there a receiver? There is no receiver. So look, you can see he looked back one more time. He's making sure that if he goes up here and he attacks Justin Fields to try to stop this play, no one's going to get behind him for a touchdown. That is 1,000 level IQ right there. I mean, there's a lot of guys who don't even think to look back. They just take off. And this is not what Jalen does there. He does check. And then look at the explosiveness to get downhill. He comes up, straight attacks. That's a super, super athletic quarterback. There's a lot of risk in diving into that play like that. So again, I'm going to rewind that one back one more time. So this was a little bit later in the half. Where the Jets were trying to drive to get a scoring opportunity. Jalen's very situationally aware. You can see him checking, pointing, passing off, looking back one more time, and then boom, explode to the quarterback, make him get rid of the football. Great play by Jalen Ramsey. That's the type of thing that does not show up on a stat sheet, but is super valuable to your defense. Is a guy who's that situationally aware, and that not only that, but when he's sitting next to Joey Porter Jr. in a film, you don't think he's showing him those things. You don't think he's explaining his thought process on these things. That's exactly what Joey needs to continue to grow into the player he's becoming. So we're going to move on to the next play, and I'm going to be honest with you on this one. This has no bearing on his ability as a safety. It has no bearing on whether this was a good or a bad play. You're going to see Jalen Ramsey out here in the single high safety look in the pre-snap. And I just kind of want you to watch how this plays out, because I literally laughed out loud watching this, and I played it by 5 times. So Jalen's in the deep coverage look again. He's got right here, he recognizes very quickly Joey Porter is trying to pass off Garrett Wilson. However, there is no one to pass him off to. You have this corner, who I can't remember who was on the field at the time. It might have been Slay still, carrying this receiver up the field. Jalen sees the crosser, and he's going to try to get to this crosser, and bam. I laughed so hard watching that. I'm like, how is that not defensive pass interference? So I'm going to rewind that back because I just think it's hilarious. And here's the part that killed me in the whole thing is there are 2 officials downfield. So here's the one official, and he's watching this area. And then as you see, here's your second official. They're both watching Jalen Ramsey just absolutely light up this receiver as he tries to get to Garrett Wilson. Absolutely, again, that had nothing to do with anything other than the fact that I thought it was hilarious that he laid out a receiver about 20 yards downfield. It didn't even get called for it. This is another play where Jalen Ramsey is going to show his physicality. So he's going to start right here, and he's going to be in the nickel look. As of right now, he's got the responsibility of this tight end right here. But what you're going to see as this play unfolds, here comes a receiver in motion. He's going to carry outside, and this is going to be a zone coverage look. So this is another one we're a little bit late in the half right here. You've got Jalen Ramsey on the flats. Joey Porter has this deep quarter of the field, deep quarter, and then this quarter, I think this was Slay again, covering his deep corners of the third of the field over there as well. And so right here, everything over the top's covered up. Jalen sees Garrett Wilson stop. You can clearly see on the screen here, this is a 3rd down play. And he knows Garrett's short of the sticks. So you can see him start to accelerate up to the ball. He breaks down. You got 2 guys there. And then the finish where he just throws Garrett to the ground was a fantastic finish. We're going to watch this thing from the other angle here, and you're just basically going to see the finish of this play from this angle here. But you can see Justin works outside. There's Garrett, and you got 2 guys out there, and then Jalen just throwing. Again, that doesn't show on stat sheet. But you know what? If you watch the way that game unfolded, that definitely got in Garrett Wilson's head, because the remainder of the game, he was not very happy about how physical Jalen was playing with him in those spot moments. So I thought that was just another little thing where, again, not a stat sheet thing, but an attitude, a physicality thing. That's something that he brings to the table. So on this play here, you're going to see Jalen down on the bottom of the screen. He's going to be matched up in a situation where they're in a deep zone package. I think this was still pretty late in the half. Now, right here, he's got good leverage. Okay, he's still got eyes in the backfield. This is what he's done well his whole career. He sees Justin is in trouble. So the receiver's probably not going to beat him deep on this play, because that's a hell of a throw if he does that. He carries the receiver. The receiver tries to break this thing back outside. Now we're kind of in scramble drill, right? The quarterback is leaving the pocket. Jalen's still having eyes in the backfield while staying tight to the receiver. He's going to keep on the hip pocket right here. And there's a PBU where he almost picks this thing off. He almost picks that thing off. So I thought that was just something where he worked back through the hips of the receiver, stayed with him. The guy wasn't doing anything spectacular, but again, it's just the intelligence of the play that I thought was impressive to me, is the way he was able to work through that and stay on the hip pocket of the receiver and make sure he kept eyes in the backfield to know whether or not Justin was scrambling to run or if he was still trying to get rid of the ball downfield. So another PBU, one of his 6, obviously. This time, again, Jalen's going to be on the outside here. Now, they're in an overload look on the other side. They got twins up top. And you've got one down here on the bottom with the tight end and an offset running back on the left of Justin Fields. So again, zone look, they're going to bring a man in motion. You know Ramsey's going to be in a zone down here at the bottom. This is, again, intelligence. All right, so here comes the flare. He's responsible for this outside of the field. He's in good position right here. Justin's looking right here. There's nowhere to go with this ball right here. Brees isn't open, but you have Garrett Wilson who's going to be coming on this crosser route right here. And as Garrett works underneath, Jalen is watching every bit of this play. So he's still carrying Brees Hall up the field. He's in a very slow backpedal right now because he sees Justin's eyes not even working outside. He's working underneath to Garrett Wilson, his guy. This is the other play that everybody's going to remember. There's a scramble coming up. Boom, big hit. And that's the other part that gets to him. And you can see how Garrett lays on the ground there. I mean, you could tell that didn't feel good. So you're going to see this from the other play to see the finish of it again. I just think this is something attitude-wise that Jalen brings to the table that not everybody brings to the table. So there is Justin scrambling. Garrett gets out, and then Jalen just absolutely lights up the ribs. So that's a good play. That's a great play defensively and just an attitude and a tone setter. So we're moving on to the Seattle game. Now, this one got really interesting to me because there were some moments where he and JSN were locked up one-on-one. And it's going to start with this one right here. So you're going to have Jalen trailing JSN. JSN led the league in freaking everything last year. 1,700 yards total, led all of our receiver room by himself. So, I mean, I just want you to watch how this play unfolds. I actually thought this was a nice play for both guys. Both got some moments there. And he's in a press. So this is what I want to see from Jalen Ramsey. Can he still press man? Because this is when you bring in Jamel Dean, you have Joey Porter Jr., you need a third guy who can get up there and press. And he has to be able to do it against anybody. It doesn't have to just be the team's wide receiver 3. We need him to be able to be mobile and move with any one of these receivers and do press man out of this. So here we're going to go. Really high-end matchup between the two of these guys right here. You're going to see JSN, the start on that where he fakes outside. He gets Jalen on the outside hip, and Jalen's going to help him outside. But here's the thing. Jalen also wants to be on the outside hip on this play because you have help inside the middle of the field. But the problem is, as he stays on the hip, he's not fast enough in this moment to keep up with JSN as he breaks this thing off. And you see a little stumble there from Jalen, and that kind of set this thing up. So again, I'm going to rewind that back just a little bit. So watch at the top of the break. You're going to see JSN really put his foot in the ground and give a little something to Jalen at the top of the route right there. That snapping that thing off, Jalen couldn't keep up. That's a tough play for anybody, though. I didn't think that was bad coverage, and I didn't think it was great coverage because that was a tough one to do. The way that he played the leverage on the outside, he wasn't exactly straight up. He was trying to force JSN back into the middle of the field where he had some help. The help wasn't able to get there, and JSN, that's why he led the league in receiving yards this year. Pretty good matchup between the two of them there on that first play of the game. So on the second one, this time Jalen's going to be out here on the outside. He's at the top of the screen right here. You've got a twins look. You've got two guys matched up. And watch how this unfolds. Now, the way that they're doing this, these two guys have to communicate which two guys you're picking up. So this inside defender is going to take the receiver on the top. And what they're trying to do is this is Cooper Kupp. And they're trying to work Cooper Kupp underneath to get the two DBs crossed up. And then he's going to try to get an out route. But watch Jalen Ramsey have the understanding of who is going to be the guy in route. And he knows Cooper Kupp is not the fastest guy in the world. And he can be a little bit more aggressive on this one. So there he comes. There goes Jalen. He stops on a dime, gets back, and there's the interception. So I love the way that he stays with it. He does, I mean, he flipped his hips pretty well right there, right? To get up underneath that and undercut that throw. That was a nice play by Jalen. So again, he's playing corner in this position. That's not a safety look. I just thought that was a way where he could be a little bit more aggressive. We're going to see this from the other angle now, just to kind of see the finish. So you're going to see right here, you got Chuck Clark. Here's Jalen. Undercuts the receiver. Ball thrown behind him. But again, it's not always about playing it perfectly. It's more about making sure you're in the right positions. And in that moment, I think you could see that Jalen Ramsey was in the right position. And if that ball's thrown perfectly, possibly it's a catch. Still probably a PBU, though, right? So, I mean, even though it's underthrown and everybody's going to say, oh, well, that was an easy play because it was underthrown. Not so much. You have to be in the right positions to make those plays work. So I really liked how that was. Right here, you've got JSN again. He's going to be matched up against Jalen Ramsey one more time. So he's going to be in a zone on this play. So you got a tight end coming in motion down here. Here he is on the outside. And again, this is the closing speed. He still has that instinct and that closing speed to come down there and make a play on the ball right there. That's the thing that you like about it. Again, running it back one more time. Here comes the tight end in motion. Watch the eyes. Eyes in the backfield. He sees the quarterback going outside. Perfect timing. Big time hit. That's a tight end. Again, that's not Garrett Wilson, who's 180 pounds soaking wet. That's your tight end, Arroyo, coming in. The kid from Miami, who he lays a big hit on. So, again, intelligence doesn't show up on the stat sheet. That should have been an easy short completion. And when you break that up like that with a big hit, sends a message to the team, but also at the same time, it puts them back behind the sticks where they're not playing in phase, in rhythm, and they have to come up with a 2nd and 10 long drive. Now, this is the play that everybody remembers. All right, so this is the one where you have Jalen Ramsey ISO'd at the bottom with JSN right here. This is where the top end speed just quite isn't there for a lot of people. But I think if you watch this thing play out, it wasn't as egregious as what people think it was. So Ramsey's playing outside leverage. JSN doesn't do a lot in this route. He's just going to try to win with speed. Ramsey's right there on the hip pocket, but Darnold's already got his mind made up. He's going to take this shot. And as it plays out, Ramsey's in perfect position. That little stumble this thing went too far back, sorry. Right here, you're going to see the feet get caught up. Right there. If he doesn't have the feet caught up, that is a PBU. He's in perfect position right there. So, yes, it was a big play. Yes, he got beat over the top. But was it because he was in bad positioning? I don't think so. Did he get cooked down the field by a speedy receiver? Not at all. I think Jalen still runs better than people think he does. That was a big play. And I think everybody looks at the end result of that play and they just sit there and say to themselves, like, Jalen got cooked. But we're going to see this from the second angle here. Again, they're coming from this outside. Ball in the air. And right there, that little stumble. And he's still right there on the hip of JSN. And JSN, he led the league in reception yards for a reason, fellas. Sorry to say, that's just the way it went. It was a big play. Everybody thinks that, the big play is a huge knock. But at the same time, man, he was in position. If that stumble doesn't happen, we don't know what happens on that play as a result. But as it is, it stands. So we're going to look at Jalen and Justin Jefferson. So Jalen's going to be ISO'd on Justin Jefferson at the top of the screen here. You're going to see a lot of movement from the Minnesota Vikings on this play here. You're going to bring some motion down here. You're going to set. Bring a second guy in motion down here so it looks complete ISO. But it's actually just going to be a screen. And Jalen works over top of the screen. So the tackle can't really get out there and block him. Ends up being a short game on something that could have been much more devastating with him being out there on an island by himself. So we're going to see the other angle of this. You're going to see this tackle sprint outside to try to locate Jalen in rhythm. And there goes Jalen. He sees it coming, stays outside. I think that was the thing about this play that really stuck out to me is you see a tackle running at you. I think the instinct is to try to slip the tackle immediately. He doesn't really do that. He actually stays outside with his leverage pointing in towards Jefferson to force him back into the help. And I think that for me was, again, it's an IQ thing. But not only does he do that, he ends up getting over top of the tackle who was pulling anyway and gets in the tackle. That was a big thing for me. I just, again, it's an IQ play. It's nothing that's like, Not going to show up on a box score. It's not going to jump off the screen by any means. I just thought it was a complete IQ play where I really appreciated what Jalen was able to do there. He was patient, knowing a guy who's 320 pounds coming out to just take his block clean off his head. He stays in patience. He takes his time with it, and he absolutely gets in on the play and keeps that to a short game. So on the second play here, this is going to show him and his tackling ability in the run game. This is going to be a toss play, and it's going to start out to this left side. You've got Jalen Ramsey right here. You've got the DB who should be the outside leverage man, but watch how the play unfolds. So as the toss comes, Jalen's looking inside, but he's keeping his contain out here. There's really no run lane because you've got Nick Herbig holding contain on the outside. You've got Big Cam Hayward, who's just strong-arming a guy right here. And Keanu Benton wins his rep, which makes this play really intriguing. So now you've got a running back looking, where am I going to escape? And as he escapes right here, Ramsey's the last line of defense before you've got a guy 10 yards downfield. But Ramsey, being who he is a sure tackler, comes up, makes this play. This is a 2.5 yard gain. I just thought that from his standpoint, again, he's going to be right here on your screen. Watch him be patient. He crosses down, comes up, makes the play. I like that. I mean, that's a sure tackler. And if you want to be a good player out of the nickel, you have to be a sure tackler as well. And Jalen certainly is that. I don't know anybody who would argue anything differently. So now on this play here, you've got Jalen, you got a twins look. One of them is Justin Jefferson here. You got Jalen Naylor up here, and Ramsey is going to be kind of split between the two in his alignment here. This ends up being a one-on-one rep with Jettis again. I think this is just something where I think you see him kind of in a half-press man look here where he's up at the line of scrimmage. You've got the help over the top, but this is just a straight one-on-one rep. He stays underneath, understanding you had safety help over the top. Okay, so let's rewind that back just a little bit. This is, I believe, Juan Thornhill. If you see Thornhill here, Jalen has a good understanding. And again, this is a play where if you watch this thing live, you could say, oh, Jefferson beat him easily on this play, right? But he didn't. Jalen is staying inside and understanding that it's cover two. You want to keep him out of the middle of this field because this is where it's dangerous. If you get a guy with like Justin Jefferson, he can split the safeties, and this could be a huge gain. So what's Jalen do? He stays on the inside hip and a little bit of a trail technique right here. This is intentional. This is not by anything other than design. He's in a trail technique, staying with Jettis, and he's going to try to force him to stay on this outside, which he does. There's Jefferson breaking outside. But Jalen's right on the hip again. He's underneath of him. If Carson Wentz tried to throw that ball, there's no way that thing gets completed. I want to run that back one more time so everybody can see exactly what he did here. Watch the trail technique. Watch him stay on the hip. And there's the break. He's still right there with him. There's no way you're getting that ball out and completed. Just no. It didn't matter if it's Carson Wentz, Kyler Murray. JJ would have thrown it, and it would have been an interception. We all know that, but that's the Buckeye coming out. You could be Patrick Mahomes, and it's still such a high-risk throw that I don't even know if Mahomes is trying to make that throw. Josh Allen, I don't know if he wants to make that throw. Like, it's just great coverage, and that was a good job, again, showing from the corner position, he still has a little left in the tank. Now, this time you're going to see him up top. He's going to have another ISO play. But this one's actually going to be in a one-on-one with Jettis again. So this is Justin Jefferson again. Up at the top of the screen, you see Peyton Wilson coming out with, I think that was their fullback. Going to bring him back in motion. So this is it. One-on-one ISO. You're in a cover one look. Everybody's pressed up across the line. I think this was a third down. And you've got one safety high. So you do not have a lot of safety help over the top unless you were able to force them back to the middle of the field. But he's not shading any direction right now. This is just a straight-up man-to-man with Justin Jefferson. Jefferson releases inside. Now, right there, Jefferson slips. Ramsey kind of has a little slip there. Carried him up the field pretty well. Would this probably have been a completion if this was a more clean break on the outside? Yeah, I think you could say that. But I thought it was a pretty good rep by both guys because I think Ramsey wins early on this rep to force Carson to kind of get outside right there. You can see it. And then Jefferson trying to break this out more of a scramble drill at that point kind of wins the rep against Ramsey. Thought that went both ways. You could argue that they both kind of won that one. So I think that was just, again, press man coverage against one of the best receivers in football, and he holds his own, forces the quarterback to scramble and get outside for a short gain. Like, I'm fine with that. I think there's still a lot of the tank with him. So on this one, you've got Jalen Ramsey up top here. You've got Justin Jefferson, that same fullback, tight end, whatever he's listed at for Minnesota. Sorry, I didn't pay attention to who he is. I think he's fullback. Again, they're going to kind of run this where he's it looks like a press man right off the bat. It turns out to be a zone coverage. He's responsible for this outside right here. Just kind of loses sight as Carson scrambles and gives up the touchdown. This is actually where he also pulled his hamstring and did not finish the game. So I just think that what you see is there's a lot left in the tank as a corner for Jalen Ramsey. I don't think he's cooked just yet, but you don't want him to be ISO'd one-on-one too often on the outside. I think that if you can keep him in a controlled situation, you put him in the right spots. One of the things I was shocked about the more I watched this was we ran a lot of freaking cloud coverages where he just sprints out to the sideline from that nickel roll every freaking time. And I'm like, no wonder all these offensive guys think they know exactly what's going on. We ran the same damn coverage over and over and over again. It's kind of exhausting to watch, to be perfectly honest with you. But I think speaking of Jalen Ramsey, the $19 million price tag is rich for me. I don't like it. We just restructured Pat Freiermuth. I don't know what the numbers are on that yet. That opened the cap probably for the Aaron Rodgers signing. I don't know if they have anything more to go on that or not. But, at $19 million, is he that guy? I don't think so. Is he as bad at playing corner as what the fan base and I think some of the media had made it out to be? I think that's a little overblown. And that's why I broke this down into two parts. Again, I want to go later into the season to look at, the Cincinnati games and the Baltimore games and things like that where he struggled a lot, and look at how much of that came from him being a safety, how much of that came from him being in the cornerback role. But I knew early in the season he played a lot of primary corner in the nickel. And I think this is the other thing is we all think, we don't know. We're all kind of thinking that he's going to be playing a lot of nickel. He's going to play a lot of safety. But you didn't bring Jaquan Brisker here to sit on the bench. Deshaun Elliott, he says he's back and he's going to be fine. Whether that's the case or not, I don't know. None of us really know. But at the same time, those are probably your starting safeties. And again, I think Brandon Echols did a pretty solid job, I would say, as a nickel corner. But you also saw where he had some struggles as well. He had some big moments and he had some real struggles. I actually thought he played better on the outside than he did as a nickel. I thought when he came in to replace Darius Slay, he was more effective on the outside than when he was playing inside the nickel. He had some pretty big blowout games, like, specifically the Texans, where Christian Kirk went absolutely batshit crazy. That should never happen. Over half of Christian Kirk's season totals came from that one game. That can't happen. And if Jalen Ramsey was in that nickel, we don't know if that's the same situation, right? But that's the difference between having a bigger guy who can be physical and who can set a tone like Jalen Ramsey, or a guy who's a little smaller, doesn't have the name. He's not chirping the way Jalen does. Jalen also plays a huge mental game with a lot of these guys by the way he's just constantly talking. He's never quiet. And that does actually play a factor. Anybody who's played sports, man, if somebody gets in your head, your game falls apart, right? And so Jalen has spent his career making sure that you lose your head and then he keeps his. So, we'll see. Big tone setter there. I think that's something that's going to be a big factor. And the more that I watch this, and I'll dig through part 2, but as of right now, where I'm sitting here today, I think his role's better suited to be in the nickel. I think he's better suited if you have Jamel Dean, you have Joey Porter Jr., who probably is about to get the bag this year, and you also have Jalen Ramsey as your nickel. I think that's a pretty damn good trio. Don't know what that does for certain other guys on the team. But you know what? You've got to find the guys who are the right fit for the right positions. And I think that Jaquan Brisker, again, he's probably going to be your starting free safety. He can do both. He can do free. He can do strong. Probably better suited as a strong safety. But again, you didn't bring the dude here to sit the bench. He's not your third safety on the list. It's just not the way it's going to go. There's going to be some looks where I know Patrick Graham's talked about having 5 DBs on the field all the time. That's why you think Jalen's probably better suited to play in the nickel, because then that gives you your 5 DBs, your 3 corners, and then the 2 guys back to safety. That's going to be the base a lot this year. So if that's going to be our base defense a lot, you want the bigger nickel guy who's a good tackler, who can play in tight. He's better suited for that than I think Brandon Echols is. So looking through that, it's what made the most sense to me. So I appreciate anybody who gets on here watching. I want you guys to give me as much feedback on this as possible. I watched quite a lot of this film in the first 4 weeks, rewinding, going back through, trying to pick apart some plays that I thought would be interesting, and wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But listen, if he's our third corner, that's a pretty damn good problem for Pittsburgh to have, because he's a lot better at corner than what I think everybody's giving credit for. So, again, I appreciate you all for watching. We're going to do a part 2 of this. DMC and I are going to be doing Steal and Sale tonight at 6. Until next time, I hope you all have a great day.
Just like that, I left everything. I dropped out of high school. See ya. I said goodbye to my girlfriend. See ya. And I left my family.